right, so next section with equations. Hopefully you're getting better. Solving equations with variables on both sides. Okay, so we're still kind of gonna make sure we do the parentheses first and stuff like that, and then combine like terms and all that. So these equations, when you're ready to start the equation, so here's an example. So there's two terms on this side, the 10 and the 4x, minus 4x. And then there's one term on this side, on the right side. So as long as there's 2 or 1 on both sides, you could have 2 and 2, or 2 and 1, or 1 and 2, then you're good to start solving an equation. If there's more than 2, then you gotta combine stuff. There's stuff that you can combine together, and I'll do an example or two like that in just a minute. So on this problem, because on the right side of the equal sign there's only one term and it involves an x, then really the best way to solve it is by moving the x's over here. And I know that is potentially uncomfortable for some of you because the x is on the right and you like it better on the left, but we gotta kind of at some point get a little more comfortable with that. And then it's just kind of what we did the last few days. Okay, so if there's only one term on one side, if that term's a number, then move the number from the other side over there. And notice when I moved like right here, when I wanted to move the 4 and the x, I use adding or subtracting. In this case, it was adding. Right here, when I wanted to leave the x alone and just the number, I multiply or divide, and most of the time it's divide. So that's a big thing to remember. When you want to move the number and variable, you're going to add or subtract. I find a lot of the most common mistake right here is the x doesn't go anywhere. It's just the number, you divide by 4 and it ends up just being weird. So this is hugely important to remember. When you want to move the number and the variable to the other side of the equal sign, it is 100% of the time you do it by adding or subtracting. Okay? All right, so let's say we had this problem. So 2 terms on both sides. That means I'm starting to solve an equation. Okay? And really, you could move any one of the 4 terms that are there. You could move the 8x first, the minus 10, the 2x, or the positive 8. and as long as you finished everything else out correctly, it would be right, and it would be the same amount of work, and it just wouldn't be that, everything would be good. My suggestion, when there's 4 terms, okay, always move the smaller number with the variable first. It's not like you have to do it this way every time, but I think it usually ends up working out easier. So I want to move a number with the variable, but I want to move the smaller one. So 8x and 2x, the 2 is smaller than 8, so I'm going to do minus 2x over here. And the reason for that is usually the x part or the a or the m or whatever letter is being used will be positive, right there. And that just makes the problem usually easier. Okay, so now it looks like we did, a couple days ago. It's, it's a 2-step equation. So I'm going to move to adding and subtracting. And then divide. Okay, so if you notice, right here and right here, your first 2 steps of the problem, they were both adding and subtracting. And that's almost always the case. Okay, you're going to start, unless there's parentheses, which I'm going to do one in a minute, unless there's parentheses, you're going to do adding and subtracting, and then you're going to do adding and subtracting again. Okay? All right. So let's do one with some parentheses. Might see a fraction or two. Don't freak out. It's not as bad as you think. Numbers are a little bit bigger over there, but okay. So parentheses first. Distribute. So I get 9x minus 12. Okay, I'm going to distribute all there also. Okay, now remember, fractions mean divide. So I'm going to divide by 4 because that's the denominator. We're always dividing by the denominator and multiplying by the numerator. So since it's a 1, it doesn't change anything. So really, it's just 32 divided by 4 is 8. And this one's not as obvious, but 56 divided by 4 is 14. So that one I wouldn't say, oh, that's easy. Like 32 divided by 4, you should be able to get pretty quick. All right, so now you can see we have 4 terms, 2 on either side. So now I'm ready to solve the equation. I was just making it look easier. Like the green and red should look a lot easier than that black part at the top. So move the smallest number with the variable. 8 is smaller than 9, so I'm going to do the 8 first. Nine x minus 8x is just x. And then subtract 12, so I add 12. Okay, so I haven't really highlighted it much, and I should have probably a little more, but when we solve an equation, what we're saying is I can take 26 and put it where the x is, and the problem will be true. Like I'll get 8 equals 8, or 20 equals 20, or negative 2 equals negative 2. I'll get the same number on both sides. So if you're ever not sure if you solved one correct, you can plug in your number, and you should work out to be the same number on both sides. Okay. So if we had this one, okay, so I want to distribute, and I get 15x plus 6. And then since there's an x over there on the right and there's no plus 8 or whatever, I'm going to move this 15x over here, and the x's went away. 6 equals 0. True or false? Hopefully you thought false. So if that happens, the x's go away, and you have a false statement. Okay, that is false. The answer is no solution. That means no matter what number you pick, when you plug it back in, it will not work. You will get different numbers on the right and the left side of the equal sign. 20 equals 83, whatever. Okay, so on some of the problems today, that will happen. So let's see. I'm going to kind of use that same problem. Or similar to it. So this one, because there's a number on the right, I'm going to move the number first. And that 0 throws some people off sometimes, but keep working it out. Remember, the goal of the problem is x equals. So I got to move this 15. And 0 divided by 15 is just 0. 0 is an answer. It doesn't. Some people see 0 and they want to write no solution. It just means that 0 is the number that I plug in to make the problem work. So if I were to take 0 and put it where the x is, 15 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 6 is 6, and 6 equals 6. So let me write that down. If I were to plug it back in, 15 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 6 is 6, and 6 equals 6. That's true. That works. So it just means that 0 is the number. So if you get an answer that's 0, that's okay. It shouldn't happen a lot, but every once in a while. Okay. So what about one like this? Okay, so I see parentheses, distribute. No matter what the problem looks like at the beginning, if you see parentheses, that means distribute. Okay, so 2 terms on either side. Move the smallest one. Well, they're both -4, so it actually doesn't matter. Negative 4 and positive 4, that's 0. Negative 4 and positive 4, that's 0. So I got 4 equals 4. Well, that's true. So when we get a true statement, the answer is infinitely many solutions. What that means is you could all pick a different number to plug in for m, and the problem would work itself out. You would get different numbers right here. You know, if I picked 3 and you picked 7, we would get different numbers like at the end, but they would be equal. Like I would get, 4 equals 4, maybe, maybe, I don't know. You might get 12 equals 12. They're still both true statements. Okay? So some of your problems today will work out just, x equals 8, whatever. 2/3. So you might get a couple that are fractions. And then some of your answers will end up no solution or infinitely many solutions. Okay? All right. So work on the assignment out of the book. And remember that we will have a quiz tomorrow on sections 1, 2, and then this one, 3. Okay, so do the assignment, obviously, and then you should study some for the quiz tomorrow. It'll be on big ideas, and we'll go over that stuff on the Zoom, which we should have already done that, but we'll go over it again. All right, have a great rest of your day, guys.